Other news at this hour, Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa expressed optimism over possible end to rolling blackouts in the future. His optimism, of course, comes as Eskom implements lower stages of power cuts during the winter season. So from 4 p.m., stage 3 rolling blackout have been implemented until midnight. Meanwhile, the ANC-NEC meeting over the weekend is also expected to discuss, amongst others, the energy crisis in the country. So we're joined via Zoom by Professor Sampson Mamphweli, Head of Energy Secretariat at the South African National Energy Development Institute, perhaps to weigh in on the energy crisis in the country and what government is doing to address these challenges. A very good afternoon to you, Prof. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon to you and the viewers.
Right, so sentiments expressed by the Minister of Electricity, lower stages of power cuts during winter. Optimism, of course, by the Electricity Minister. Do you think that's warranted? If so, how?
Yeah, so we've been saying that if you look at the Energy Action Plan, the President's Energy Action Plan, it will start to yield results at some point. And part of the President's Energy Action Plan was to ramp up Eskom, maintenance of Eskom power plants, the coal power plants. Now we're starting to see the results because in the lead up to the winter, our projections were that we're going to have much higher stages of load shedding, and Eskom had already planned for the worst case scenario to avoid the total blackout. And through the maintenance program that they've been involved in, they are able to remove units for maintenance, and then when they return them back to service, those units are able to be to give us reliability. So that is one of the main things that is starting to bear fruits in terms of the President's Energy Action Plan, which is why we're now seeing lower stages of load shedding. And if that persists going forward in terms of the maintenance, if you look at the megawatts that are out due to breakdowns, they've gone down from about 18,000 megawatts. We're now sitting at about 14,000, close to 15,000 megawatts, and that has been consistent for quite a long time. So if they manage to maintain more, during this winter month period, which I've looked at, I saw that they're taking between 3,000 and 4,000 down for maintenance. And if that program continues, then load shedding will end quite soon. However, I need to caution that this system is still an unpredictable system. We are moving from winter to summer. There's also the fact that most people are using less electricity, especially at industry level. Most industries have shut down to try and avoid paying higher electricity costs. So in the lead up to summer, we will have a bit of a spike, which will then test the system. And it is only then that we can start to talk about, the optimism.
Yes.
But we're still very optimistic, but that by December we should be sitting at stage 1 or less.
Prof, thank you for that context, because I actually wanted to look at the timelines regarding the recovery. And if we remain on track until 2025, perhaps blackouts will take about 5 years or so to completely phase out. I want you to perhaps speak to some of the concerns at this point, perhaps as we look at the gaps between supply and demand, especially as we enter winter. I'm also wanting to look at alternatives. South Africa is set to auction at least 10 new onshore blocks for shale gas exploration in the Karoo. I wonder, with the issues of fracking as well, how issues also come about as we look at that alternative.
So if we look at the entire outlook going forward, we at the moment the economy is not growing as it should because of the constraints that we have on the energy supply side of things, and unfortunately, once we get to a level where we start to have lower stages of load shedding, most people will start to use more electricity, will need more electricity to power the economy basically. And the economy will start to to improve. And once the economy starts to improve, and then we start to have economic growth, then that will also increase in terms of the demand of electricity on the system. So we need to plan proactively. And if you look at the gas side of things, that's something that some of us support, because gas is at least one stage below other fossil fuels in terms of your emissions. And gas is something that can also help us in terms of providing us with base load, because the renewables, yes, they will come in, but they will not be able to provide us with base load if we're not increasing the storage facilities as well, if we're not doing them with storage facilities. So the gas explorations are something that we need to do, and we need to look at the bigger picture, because gas is not only used for electricity generation, it's used for so many other things that can stimulate economic activities in the areas where we have some gas reserves going forward. So I would say government is being proactive. I've listened to Minister Mantashe at some point encouraging companies to invest in exploration. That for me is being proactive, and we need that kind of proactiveness. And we need to remember that we are in this particular conundrum because we were not proactive in terms of bringing in new generation capacity, while we were focusing on universal access to electricity. So we have load shedding today partly because we did not invest in new generation capacity in time. The new generation capacity that we invested in obviously is Medupi and Kusile, which were not properly done, which is why we are here where we are today.
Prof. Sampson, just on the back of that, it's also going to be interesting to see what emerges from the ANC's NEC meeting, where the energy crisis is set to top the agenda. So perhaps some of these sentiments you explored obviously will be looked at. But I'm going to leave the conversation there for now. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC. Professor Sampson Mamphweli, head of the Energy Secretariat at the South African National Energy Development Institute, weighing in on the energy crisis in the country, perhaps what government is doing to address some of these challenges. Again, thank you to him for his time here.